Good
I was just
morning.
thinking, what if we go live and don't even do anything? Don't even talk.
Just sit here. You
Yeah.
do that. Isn't that, you've been like, I'm just gonna go live and write a blog post and you can watch me and people will come watch that.
I have done that before. It was
I
really
know.
fun.
You're sitting there.
It was
I mean, eventually
odd.
you sort of do the show, like a show, whatever. But the
Mhm.
backpack show is a whole other thing.
Yeah, we don't do it like that here. What should we do instead?
Talk to people and learn from them so that we can apply the lessons that fueled their success to our own enterprises.
Where are we going to find two smart people today?
I've been working on today for months, actually. So finally, we get Fauzia Burke, the best book publicist I know, from FSB Associates. She's the founder of FSB Associates. So what happened was that book publicists were like, I like the traditional ways and press releases and like, what even is the internet? And Fauzia's like, no, for real though, you should think about the internet. And they're like, no, I don't think so. So she went and started her own publicity firm. And they've been in business now. It was before Google was like even a thing. So she knew the internet was like going to be a thing. And they've been in business for 25 years. She's wonderful. And also PubSite sponsors this show, the Backpack Show. So we'll talk about that. And about PubSite, which makes websites for authors. So crazy easy. And our other guest today is going to talk about people of color in social media and higher ed. So
Who's that?
Well, she is a professor at Old Dominion University.
What's her first and last name?
Jamila Walker. And so I was on Twitter and came across the hashtag BHESM. And so that addresses Black Lives Matter in social media, getting more people of color in higher education, addressing their needs. And I was like, that is a conversation that needs to happen because higher ed can be a little slow to change. As much as people think it's like super liberal and colleges are super liberal, they can be a little slow to catch up with the times. So I thought that was an important conversation to have.
The gang has showed up. I see Chip Griffin here. I see Michelle. I see Chloe. My mom is here. Raul is here. Hi, Raul. Yeah. So we got a full show.
No, I had to talk longer about Jamila because I talked so long about Fauzia.
Well, we have a lot to say about Jamila, but we're going to make her our first guest right after we do this.
Hi, everyone. Tim Kitzrow from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, welcoming you to The Backpack Show. Your hosts, Chris Brogan, Kerry Gargone, Boom Shakalaka.
Backpack Show. I feel like we're going to have to make Dan make us a new one of those sometime soon. It's amazing,
Whatever.
you know. You do 2 guests a day, every weekday, and you have hundreds of guests. After a while, it's just going to look like this.
The intro can't be all that we do on the show. You play the whole intro with every guest we've had, and then the show will be over. So
I know. Well, one other thing we can do on this show, I mean, before we drag Jamila on here, is we can tell you can make your own show on StreamYard. See Brogan.me/StreamYard. I did it. I put the ads at the beginning like I've been meaning to for months. See Brogan.me/StreamYard. Thank you. I'm feeling pretty big about myself.
Bring your own professor and your own book publicity expert.
God, I'm going to be so smart when I'm done talking to Jamila. The rest of the day, I think I should just invent things. All right. We're sponsored by Johnsonville, which could fuel your invention needs. You could get your own sausages right at any old store you want because Johnsonville are sold everywhere. Or if you want, we can send them to you. Mail Carrie at chrisbrogan.com. Don't worry, Mom. Your sausages are still forthcoming.
You have to tell me what you want. I asked.
She said sausage strip. She wants a little strip. Can you get her a strip?
Well, I don't know if I can. So if I can't, what does she want?
I don't know. Talk to her. All right. We're also sponsored. And this is not how you get to be a guest on this show. So don't even try it, other bitches. But we're sponsored by PubSite. If you're an author and you've written a great book, you need a site to promote it because you're a big fool if you haven't.
Jamila's so you can hire.
Jamila's ready to write a book. I think this is her time. Listen, you can write a book. You can put it up on PubSite, pub-site.com. It's free for 14 days. But then when you forget to do that, and then you're at the very end of it, you could just buy it for $19.99, like $20 a month. And you can then also make it yourself in just like 2 hours.
We're going to get like the origin story for PubSite.
Yeah. So I guess we don't have to do that much of an ad. Or just get it made for you for $4.99 or give me $2,000 and I'll pay them $4.99.
Shut up. Please, nobody pay him to make you a website. I promise you could do it yourself. It's really, really easy.
I'm dragging Jamila in here in any second.
Really excited about Fauzia.
I know Fuzzy's been, one of our very steadfast guests for so many months.
You can start a Were They a Guest segment. Chip, I'm not going to name names, but there are shows that have intros that use cameos. When you pay celebrities to talk to you for like 35 seconds. And they put him in the intro like they were on the show, but they weren't. They weren't on the show. So it doesn't make any sense at all. So I don't know. I don't know.
I think they had backpack show envy is what I'm going to say about that.
Because they don't have Jamila, but we do.
They don't have Jamila, but now we do. So let's bring her. Oh, I pushed the wrong button. Jamila, hi.
Hi.
I feel like that was the right button.
Well,
it was. You dragged me in.
I dragged you, and it's like the Godfather. We need to know so much about you. You're a very multi-hyphenate person in all the different things you do. Has that been you your whole life? Tell me the origin story of Jamila Walker before we get to where we want to talk about what you're doing today.
Well, if we want to talk origin, Jamila Simmons, that's where I was before, from Brooklyn, New York. And I guess I'm my mother's daughter, just very career-driven, always wanting to do more, challenge myself more. So I'm a mom of twins, also a professor. I also do social media. I'm also relaunching my podcast. Like I'm doing so many things I don't even know how to even.
I didn't even know about the podcast.
Oh yeah, because it's relaunching, so I don't.
We don't
talk about it. I don't want to say too much because I don't want you guys to go see it and like, oh, there's nothing there because I'm redoing it. But yeah, but I'm so excited to be here.
It's super fun. Carrie, you asked everybody who we needed to know, and they said Jamila.
Yes. So I tweeted, hey, I want to learn from some new people. Who's good? And they were like, what do you want to know? And I'm like, I don't even, just like new ideas, anything but marketing pretty much. And I got a whole bunch of marketers, but I also got a whole bunch of people doing other really interesting and important work, Jamila among them. So what first drew me to you was that you're the co-founder of BHESM. Can you tell me about that?
Sure. So I can't even say my own acronym. BHESM. I know we need to figure that out. But it's a Blacks in Higher Ed communications group that I co-founded with my good friend Taquanda, and she's at Eastern Michigan. And the origin of that was I had always thought of having this space for us to kind of talk and vent and share. And I had just thought about it. And one day I just emailed or Facebook messaged Taquanda and I was like, hey, what do you think of this idea? And she was like, you know what? I just tweeted I wanted to do this 3 seconds ago. And I never even knew that she tweeted about it. So it was kind of like fate. And I was like, well, then let's do this. So we did. We're still building the space, but it's just great to have that kind of community where we can kind of talk and vent and relate and share advice. So it's still growing and we're just really excited about how it's been going so far.
Where can people find it? Obviously the hashtag on Twitter. There's also a Facebook group, I think.
Yes. You can just put in Blacks Higher Ed Communications and it will pop up.
Coolio. So what kind of things get talked about on this chat? Is it like a regularly scheduled chat, or is it just when you have these ideas about that, you throw that hashtag so that people who are monitoring the hashtag find them? Or is it both?
It's more so if I have an idea or I want to share something, then we use the hashtag. But most of our conversations happen in the Facebook group, and we tried to do a Slack, but it slacked. So we didn't even.
It's rough, right?
Yeah, we're like, you know what?
It's like. Feels like
I love Slack so much, and so many people, they either love it or they absolutely are not willing to be part of it. So you must be a Slack person in some other area, and you were like, this will be great, and it didn't work.
You know what? It wasn't even my idea. It was Taquanda's idea, and I was like, sure. I don't really use Slack like that, but why not? And I think we had 2 followers besides ourselves, and it's like, yeah, let's just scrap this and just kind of keep it Facebook and see where it goes. We're thinking of doing Clubhouse.
Sure.
But we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
That's interesting because that's audio only for those who haven't tried out Clubhouse. Like a lot of people are on it now. It's limited, but it's almost refreshing in the fact that it does just the one thing. So
yes,
and you don't have to worry about the many features copying other features of other networks. Like stories now is everywhere and whatever. It's
exactly.
Like, hey, audio is what we got. It's basically like a party line phone call for those.
It's just like a little chat room. Like reminds me of AOL, but you're just talking. For those who remember AOL.
Dating ourselves, Jamila. We're dating ourselves.
Yeah, I'm dating myself. Sorry. But yeah, so it's pretty cool. And you feel like a little VIP with Clubhouse because you have to have invitations. So I feel like you have a little power.
You do, and you have to be an iPhone user because I get 5 to 7 texts a day from all my friends saying, "Hey, did you need an invite? I didn't see you over on Clubhouse." And I'm like, "I'm an Android. I'm an Android." So, Jamila, before I get even more sad about Clubhouse, tell us a little bit more about the chat and the sort of things that you're sharing. What's the
Love it. Wait, Debbie's daughter-in-law graduated from Old Dominion.
Oh, let's forget everything.
The Monarch. Hello.
Okay, continue.
No, I just want to make sure you got everything covered that you want.
Shut up, would you? Go on Clubhouse.
Tip also wanted you to say, raise your hand. All right. So my only question was just rather that, what do you cover in the chat? What does that hashtag mean to me? When I go look at BHESM, what am I going to find for examples out there in the Twitter sphere and beyond?
Sure. So it kind of started with, all of the shootings that was happening, and then the George Floyd. I think that's what kind of took it to the next level. So we just kind of talked about how it is to be Black in higher ed, or specifically as a social media manager at that time and even during this time, and what that's like, because it's overwhelming sometimes. You get burnt out, and even kind of reading some of the comments during the time when our president, or we had to post something on social from our institutions, just kind of monitoring, listening, and how that was draining to us. So it was just nice to kind of have this safe space of conversations. And that's kind of what we talk about, or we share ideas, or if someone's having a webinar, we support. It's more support and communications, because only we kind of know what it's like to be in our shoes, in our field. And so it's just kind of nice to have each other's back and support.
That must have been really tough right at that time too, where people were like, "Hey, I've just noticed that you're Black. Can you tell me what I'm supposed to think right now and what we should post on social?" And I'm sure it's like, really? Every person I know, every person I work with has to?
Yeah. But it was kind of refreshing, because when the George Floyd happened, our president immediately wanted to issue a letter, and he wanted specifically to be on social media. So I was going through my own emotions. I think that sometimes people don't really understand that, yeah, we do social media, but we're also human beings. And I'm dealing with my own feelings. I'm dealing with my own emotions, but then I also have to put that aside and be professional. So when posting that letter, I did not know how people were going to react to it. I was very nervous, but pleasantly surprised at that time that we didn't receive a lot of negative comments. It was a lot of support, and just a lot of, positive comments. So I was actually really surprised on that. But then the next day, we were having like our meeting, and no one was saying anything about the event. No one was saying anything. It was kind of like people were just going about their day, but you could kind of feel the tension. And immediately was like, you know what? We need to say something more than just a letter and check a box, and we need to do something else to know that, so that our community knows that we're there for them, not just students, but faculty too. And they were like, well, we're going to look to you to come up with this strategy. And I had to sit on it and think about it, because I had no idea. And I think I went silent on social for that day, because I didn't have any words. But coming up with a strategy and working with other people in the departments, we came up with something really, really great that helped the community, support them, and is still continuing to this day. So I'm happy with how that kind of turned out for us.
What'd you do? You can't just say that.
Right. What happened?
That's not what you did.
Everything's so vague and so general. So it first started off, and I will say that the students did a really great job to kind of giving me this content. So one of them, we have this rock called Dominion Rock, where organizations can kind of write whatever, paint anything. And so they painted Black Lives Matter. And so I used that, and that just went crazy with positive comments. We have a few diversity committees that we worked with to come up with some webinars and town hall meetings. So that we kind of express ourselves. There was one for students, and there was one for faculty. And then I did some digging on, African Americans, alumni, anything like that I can showcase, because, I wanted the voices that are always silenced to kind of have a voice. So I did that on Thursdays. I kind of had like a Black Voices, so you can know um, who, who are alumni, who, the backbone of ODU. So that went really great, just kind of educating. And that's just been a continual education. We still have webinars going on with diversity, inclusion, and Office of Internal Relations. So just kind of keeping that in the forefront. Like, I didn't want this to just be a trend, because Black Lives Matter isn't a trend, something that has to be continued. So I make sure that I'm keeping that on the forefront, along with everything else that's going on with COVID and reopening, but, making sure that I have that content as well on social.
Jamila, what are colleges going to have to think about and get a little bit right now that, we're in year 2, heading into year 2 of quarantines, and a lot of universities have already been smacked around a lot by the fact that, their offline, their sort of online distance learning was a differently priced product because it didn't have to compete with the on campus. Well, now everybody's remote for the most part. And so now all of a sudden there's a lot of revenue being lost in higher ed and all that. And at the same time, we don't want to go back to the same kind of school that existed in, say, 2019. People are going to want to need new things. Right now, most of the chief diversity officers at most companies feel like they're not doing much as chief diversity officer. They feel almost like it's a tokenized role and it's not helping the process go forward. What kind of conversations are being had at the university about the new face that has to be there, the new voice that has to be there to handle a lot more DE&I type stuff, and how are you adding to that?
Sure. I think for one is, knowing your audience, and you're going to have this conversation, whether you think it's hard or not. I always say, I get it from my mom, but a closed mouth doesn't get fed. And so you have to speak up. And I did, not knowing what was going to happen, but I had to do that. And so you have to have those conversations and you have to do some digging, but it also takes a community. I wouldn't be able to have posted and share so much on social if I didn't make those relationships with those on campus that could help as well. And also that we could communicate together and support each other. And now that we're remote, it's kind of thinking outside the box, if you will, any virtual events, any town halls, because it's discussion that needs to have. We're in this world right now. It's not really going away. And it needs to be addressed. And it's how you address it. And it's not something that you just check a box and move on. It's getting deeper and having that conversation, even if it's posing this question out to your student or to the student body or faculty on an Instagram story. It's just having that conversation and engaging with them, because everyone has their opinion and have some kind of emotion and feeling, and to kind of ignore it would just be a disservice to the institutions.
Then you have to keep them from snapping back. We've seen that happen time and time again, where organizations for like a hot minute in June are like, okay, we care about this now. We see that it's important. And then they just are like, business as usual, right back. So as somebody on the inside now, I mean, there's pressure that could be brought to bear from the inside, not just PR, but like people that work there and go to school there that want change, real and lasting change.
Yeah. And because Old Dominion is a minority serving institution, or MSI, so we have a lot of African American student body. So it was so important to communicate and just be that community. And the students, they had a quiet protest on campus. It was a march in justice that they put together and had the support of our president, our provost. So just seeing that and having our president and the provost together, supporting it, it wasn't just words in a letter and then we just moved on. There was action. And I think that's where it needs to be. There needs to be action. It can't just be, oh, we said this and then, okay, we can move on. There needs to be some action and continuance of it.
Super. Jamila Walker, thanks for swinging by. Thanks for getting us up to speed on what's going on. And thanks for sharing the BHESM hashtag so people can know where to go to dig in a little bit deeper.
Don't go away.
Thank you so much. I won't.
Just stick around. We're going to put you back.
We see you backstage. Like,
I will.
You're gone.
I always remind people we can see you backstage only because, there have been a couple times they didn't know.
There's no ads, so don't go anywhere. Remember, we did the ads at the beginning, so we're grabbing Fauzia Burke instantly. All right.
Well, I just wanted to say I learned a lot from Jamila and to thank her.
Thank you, Jamila. I'm pushing a button. Fauzia Burke, it's time. It's time. You're here. You've done it.
Months in the making. month.
I'm so happy. Thank you so much for having me. And hello to all the backpackers out there.
I know it feels so weird you being on this side now.
I do. I feel very weird. So but I'm happy to be here. Happy to be on this side.
So this all started because years ago when your book was launching, I interviewed you for Marketing Profs about the book.
Yes.
And I loved it, loved you, remembered it. And then we had on this show, Len Joy, who is one of the authors FSB Associates represents. And you popped by to watch it. I was like, oh my gosh, Fauzia. And so that's it. It just rekindled the love affair. And here we are.
It did. I love you, Carrie.
I love you. Chris, are you going to stay for this or?
I don't know. I was just thinking I could probably get a sandwich or something.
No.
But
You can stay, Chris.
oh, thank you. Thank you.
He'll allow it.
Yeah.
But and Nat says hi from the Italian backpacker.
Woo.
Book publicists work. I'll tell you the way it's worked for me. I've never paid for an external book publicist, and there's probably a lot of times where that might have been a better move. My joke with my first book trust agents, they didn't give us anything because they were like, whatever, we're just going to take a wing on these. And we killed it. We hit all these awards. It was like a very well awarded book. So the next book, you can imagine, we were full of ourselves. So we got an agent, and we got the agent to negotiate a ridiculous advance. Julian and I get the most any of our social media friends got for an advance. And that's all I'll say about it, which I still get an email every quarter saying you still haven't even hit that number yet. So the publisher reminds me every quarter, you suck. We took a huge bet on you and you blew it. So it's
You
okay.
needed a book publicist, obviously.
So I have to say that though, because like when I say we got the biggest advance, it sounds like so full of me, but it's really essentially math telling me you're not that.
Fauzia, as a book publicist, do you ever recommend that authors talk about themselves this way? Or?
No. But I have a real comment to this. So there's a point. So the big advance is the point. So they hook us up with their in-house book publicist at, I won't mention who, but you know the publisher in this case. And he gave us one of his court-appointed book publicists. And in the middle of the conversation of the things she was suggesting for us, I started to get mad. Julian heard me getting mad. Julian Smith, my co-author, he heard me getting mad. And he said, Chris, I'm starting to lose you. I don't think I can hear you so well. And I'm thinking, what? And I realized what he was saying. And I was like, so I hung up the phone. It was the worst advice I had ever heard in my life. She had clearly read it off a piece of paper that was taped to the side of her monitor. It was like the least useful book publicist advice in the world. There's bad people everywhere. There's good people everywhere. Fauzia, what makes for a great book publicist? Because you have 25 years of excellence with an incredible roster of massively award-winning people. You could speak as the expert on this field. Help.
What makes a good publicist? So publicity work is really hard, I have to say. I mean, it's not like ER and it's not, life-threatening or anything like that. But it's hard because people pay you, but there's no guarantee of the outcome, right? So that's hard because there's such a trust in that situation. You really need to see that the person's doing their best, right? That's all we can do. People hire us not for results, but for our time, our expertise, and hopefully our creativity, right? That's what they're hiring us for. And I think sometimes authors don't really, or anyone who hires the PR people, they don't really get that that's what they're hiring us for, right? If you want something on Wall Street Journal on the day of publication, you've got to do an ad. Like that's the only way to do it. You can't control it. So we can't control who's going to cover what. We could pitch you guys, one of our authors, because we think they're fabulous, all of them. And you might go, that's just not the right fit for our show. Did you watch our show? Right? Like that's why we don't pitch you all our authors, because they're not right for all of your shows, right? So I think that matchmaking makes a really good publicist. You obviously have to be creative. You've got to be honest. But then that matchmaking of like making sure that that book belongs on that podcast, that show, that blog, all that stuff.
And you were one of the very first publicists to realize the internet was a thing that was going to stay and not just a fad, So talk about that, because you went out on your own, which is never an easy decision to make.
No, it was not an easy decision. And I loved my job. I loved my boss. So it wasn't like, oh, I hate it here, I'm going to just go do this. But I was doing marketing at Henry Holt, which is part of Macmillan. And it's a wonderful company. And I really did have one of my favorite bosses there. But I saw the internet for the first time. One of the editors was working on a book on the internet, and he called me over and he said, hey, I want to show you something. And I went over to his desk. That image, that moment is seared in my head, because he said, click on that button, click on that underlined word. It was Paris. And I was like, click on it? What does that even mean? Right? We didn't click on words then. It was a hyperlink that I saw for the first time. I clicked Paris and it took me to a French site. And I was like, whoa, what just happened? And that was my sort of understanding that there was this whole world going on. So I started learning a little bit more. That was CompuServe time. So ages ago, pre-AOL, I think even, and listserv.
Wow.
Those kinds of really nerdy things. So I started tooling around with it. And I was like, this is going to change the world, because the way we've been doing marketing for books, right? That's all I know, is that every book is kind of the same. So Chris didn't go on to tell us what the advice was, but a lot of times the advice that publishers give to authors it's the same for every book. It's if whether you're writing a business book about social media, or whether you're writing a finance book, or whether you've written fiction, it was almost like the same campaign. And it didn't make any sense to me, because once you see the web, right? And I saw the early parts of it, like listservs, where people were not just talking about one thing. It was really niche. You guys disappeared on me, but okay.
We did it. We're highlighting you like we've done with other guests.
Okay. So that kind of was the realization for me, is that this is going to change the way we do marketing. There's no way we can do general marketing now. It's going to be niche marketing. So with all this excitement of whatever 20-something I was then, I went to my boss and I said, this internet thing is going to change the world. And he said to me, even though he's one of my favorite people, I don't think so. I think it's going to go away. And so I had a choice to either agree with him and do business as usual, do my regular marketing job without the internet, or quit and try to figure this thing out on my own. So I decided to resign, and it was amazing because he didn't know what I was really talking about, but he trusted me enough to hire me as a sort of a consultant before I even left the building. So that was
no, but then yes.
Yeah. And then they became my first client. And then they were my client for years. So I trusted that there was something here that I was going to try to figure out. And that's kind of what happened. And then I did my first publicity book for free, because people didn't know what I was talking about. So I was like, all right, just give me some books and I will figure out what this is about, and we'll see what happens. And that's how I company got started 25 years ago.
So people ask me all the time, they make the mistake of, New York Times bestselling author probably knows how to promote his book. It was total magic. I only had one ace up my sleeve, which is I had never asked anybody anything for 10 years, never asked for a single favor. I said, when this book comes out, would you just buy it between Sunday and Saturday of this week? And that's all I'd heard from anyone, is that that's how the Times does what they do. And I don't even know if that's true. I just asked that question and they said, yeah, sure. And we hit the Times. We hit Wall Street Journal, Wall Street Journal, Inc., USA Today, and a few others, 800 CEO reads. So we did okay. Again, super braggy, but I don't know the first thing to tell anybody about how to promote a nonfiction book and any book. And all I know is I always tell them the same thing. I say, well, let's see what Gary Vaynerchuk's done lately, because he does all right. And then we look around at other people like that, and we look at, and so sometimes it's buy one, get twos. And sometimes it's buy enough and we'll do speeches, which I did that a lot early on. What are kind of the go-tos? And I guess, like you said, there's a difference between fiction and non. Hit that as well if you can.
So, what you said makes so much sense, Chris, because you said you leveraged your network, right? That's how, and to this day, that is still one of the most important things to do. It's not the only thing you do, but that favor bank being full, kind of a big thing. So I think for a lot of authors, when they're asking me, oh, my book is coming out in a year, and I tell them, okay, then you're going on a gratitude tour, which means you're going to go and thank everyone, and you're going to read their books, and you're going to review their books and all of that, because then when you need their help, you want to make sure your favor bank is full, because the initial sort of ripple out really does come from your network, right? So that is still, I think, the most important thing. And now we have lots of tools for that. And, there was a time when people would just be like, hey, buy my book. Now it's, we've got social media, and we've got our newsletters and our live conversations and all of that kind of stuff. But that network is still really, really important. And it's important no matter what you're writing, whether you're writing fiction or nonfiction. But the difference between marketing both of them is obviously nonfiction is easier because you have a topic, a niche that you can find blogs that talk about it. And of course, my focus is on digital marketing. So, you'll hear that a little bit. Podcasters who cover that topic, all of that. Fiction, sometimes it's sort of like, it's a novel. There might be some threads to it, but it's very difficult to kind of have someone on a podcast that cover a topic that's covered in a novel. It's just not enough. There are entire books on the topic. So it becomes really difficult. So fiction is very review driven. People have to like it. So nonfiction, not so much. It's not as review driven. You can get interviews, you can get other things. So in some ways, the novel has to be really well written. The nonfiction book, not as much. So I am sure.
Explain a lot, Chris. Or
explains my career right there.
Well, I have a philosophy that I live by, which I think sometimes nonfiction authors live by too, which is that if you're coasting, you're probably going downhill. That's my mantra for myself and my life. And I feel like sometimes people, you read their book and you're like, wow, that's just coasting on whatever it was, So I think that every single time you write a book or you write a blog or whatever, you've got to try to do your best work. And I think, that's not always the case. And certainly with big celebrity authors, that is not the case. So, but novels, you just can't get away with it. If people don't like it, they will call you out for dialogue. They'll call you out for the ending. They'll call you out for character development. And I mean, there's so many things that you just cannot get away with. So I think those are the two different things. Is as a publicist, you need to make sure you're picking the right projects, and then you can hopefully deliver good results for your clients.
But you're not just a publicist, you're an entrepreneur, and you've run a successful business and kept it, without getting outside investors and everything. You've kept it growing right to the point where you want. Like at one point, I think when you and I have talked previously, it had gotten a little bit bigger than you even wanted it. Yes. So you can't help growing. What are you doing? Why so much success when you don't want outside investment? How are you growing your business?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. There was a time that I had as many as I think we had 13 people, which was new space, and we got the water delivery and all of the things that when you're like 2-3 people, you're like, this will be when we've arrived, right? Going to a cocktail party and saying, yeah, we have 13 people. Everybody going, what? How is that possible? What do you do? And I'm like, book publicity online. They're like, that many people do that work. It was like very much of an ego trip. But what my husband, who's my business partner, and I realized we really did not enjoy our work anymore. Because when you get to that size, it's not 100 people. I get that. It's still a small company. But for us, we felt like we were doing more management of people and processes rather than just kind of creating things. And the more people you have, the less sort of inventive you can be. You've got people's rent. That's your responsibility then. And it just makes you a little bit less comfortable trying new things. And that's what's fun for us. We really like to do that. So we realized that was not the right move for us. And we're a smaller company now. We're about 6 people. That's our comfort, our sweet spot. And I'd rather turn down business than grow and get more people. That's sort of been the philosophy for us. And I think there's been a trend in the last few years about, what size is right for you. growth for the sake of growth is not always easy. And then when we had all those people, we weren't actually as profitable, right? Because you have all that, the payroll.
You have all the overhead, right?
You have overhead, you have payroll, you have all of that stuff. And so it's been a good lesson to learn that was a big ego trip, not necessarily a good thing for us as a company. But I love doing good work, and it's really important to, do it in a way that is not stretching you. So that's kind of what we did.
What's it like partnering with your husband?
Hi, Carol. It's fantastic. I mean, when we started doing that, people thought, okay, you guys, that's craziness. I'm going to actually tell you a little bit of a sexist thing too, because, I took this huge leap of faith. I quit my job. I was working on it, trying to figure this out. One of the books I was working on got on the New York Times but like a feature on New York Times. And then about 18 months later, we got this amazing opportunity to do a website for a huge best-selling author. She's #1 best-selling author. Her name is Sue Grafton. She's a mystery author. And I would, we got that project. And I came home and I said to John, who was actually a sales director at the time for a publishing company, and I said, what? I don't know how to do a website. How does anybody do a website? Who does these things? It was 96. And he said to me, I bet I can learn this. I think I can do it. And he taught himself. He was a sales director at a publishing company. And he went back and forth on train reading HTML books. And then we literally, the two of us, liberal arts people, did a website for #1 New York Times bestselling author called Sue Grafton. And that's how our the website business got launched. But the sexist part I want to return to is, so 18 months later, I said this to John. He was like, all right, you know what? I think we should take a leap of faith. I'm going to quit my job too. So now both of us are quitting our job. We have 2 kids. Crazy. So when he quit his job, all our family, all our friends went, wait, what is Fauzia doing? So up until then, it was just like, oh, that's so cute. She's doing something over there.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as John was able to quit, they were like, whoa, this is now something you guys are doing. So, but I was scared, and I thought, okay, if this starts impacting our family and our marriage, one of us has to go get a job. But it's been wonderful. It's been absolutely
so far so good.
Yeah, so far so
25
good.
years.
And 28, I think, married. So,
wow.
Majority of our married life, we have worked together. So
when do you go into the website business for other people? Like, how does that happen?
So we'd been doing websites since 97, right? That's when we launched Sue Grafton. I'm pretty sure that was the first website that was ever launched for an author. And then we were doing WordPress sites, and we were doing sites, through Dreamweaver and all these other programs. And then Wix and Squarespace came around, and we were like, oh, this is going to be great. People will do this. The website business was never the biggest part of our business. It was always sort of, oh, we're doing publicity. Wait, where's your website? Oh, I don't have a website. Oh, man. All right. Okay. Well, we have to figure out how to do a website. So we were always sort of doing websites for authors for that reason. And then when Wix and Squarespace came around, we were like, oh, these are going to solve everybody's problems, right? They seem so easy to use. Well, the issue with those websites is that they're made for entrepreneurs. And then, and event planners and photographers, and books are different. Books have a lot of words. There's a lot of words to showcase. And those platforms, those templates really don't have a lot of space for words. I don't know if you've noticed that. It's a lot of graphics, not as many words. So John said in, I think it was 2018, he's met this programmer and he thinks we should do our own platform. And I was like, are you crazy? How are we going to do our own platform from the ground up? And how are we going to compete with other people? Like, who's going to use our platform over all these other humongous billion-dollar companies? But I trusted him, and he worked with this programmer, and the two of them created PubSite, which I'm so proud of. And yeah, we don't have to compete with all those companies because we're only serving one community, which is authors. That's it. And there's no one else who does that. And so we love our platform, every service, every design, every feature is for authors. It's for one community. That's it. We're not trying to get everybody. And it's been wonderful. So we launched it in 2018. I'm very excited about that.
And no better business to run. Listen, we're going to grab Jamila
Have a lot
Walker
of
back in
words.
here.
Yeah.
Books have a lot of words. We're going to grab Jamila back in. And
Some books have pictures mostly. I'm just saying.
Some do.
Some do. One quick question. Debbie wants to know, what are better sellers, fiction or nonfiction?
1 second, Jamila.
Oh, it depends. In all honesty, I mean, that's not why people should write either one of them. You should write the best book you can and see what happens. But I think nonfiction books, all the fiction, once you get to the bestseller list, those are books that have sold a lot. But overall, there are probably more fiction book, novels written. So not all of them, you have a lot more competition.
I'm going to write
for
Beach
money.
Trash.
If it's
That's
for money,
what
it's nonfiction, because nonfiction, according to David Maister, is the best $25 business card that you can't buy. Whereas fiction, it is a slug to get there. And for every time we hear about a Hugh Howey or whatever that girl's name is that I can't remember, who was selling her books at, little books at 99 cents a piece, she made $5 million and she got a $5 million deal. This is like the OnlyFans thing. There's 25 hot naked people who are making all the money. There's a lot of people making $3,000.
Wow.
So,
Yellow card Brogan. What else is new?
all right, I'm grabbing my Jamila Walker back in here. We're gonna just have a quick
Unbelievable.
Hello.
Hello again.
But it's true. Fiction is a lot like that kind of a business, and so that's all I wanted to say about that.
I don't see why not.
Can I pitch my wife's cookbook? Well, what you're saying is, can I pitch my wife's cookbook to Fauzia, who you pay to promote it? So go for it. Jamila, one thought I had while I was listening to Fauzia as well is that Fauzia was pointing out the sexist thing of no one was as impressed that she was running her own business until they realized that her husband could quit. Sexism is still alive and well, right alongside of racism, as alongside of everything. There's way lots of glass ceilings in the world. What are you working on in your career to move yourself up, and what are you doing, and where do you see yourself going after this particular cycle in the land of Jamila?
Ooh, great question. Well, first, I just got my certification as a national social media strategist. So that was on my to-do list. But I see myself being an entrepreneur. I battled this, and that's why I'm so looking up to Fauzia, because I'm so fearful to even make that leap, even though I feel like I have the skills and stuff to do so. That's where I want to be. I want to be an entrepreneur and have my own agency. That's where I see myself. But I'm just I'm so scared. So I kind of stay in this lane. And then I'm relaunching my social media podcast, which I had started a couple of years ago for my thesis when I got my master's. And so I'm relaunching it on my birthday, which is February 17th. So I've been interviewing and getting episodes ready. So I'm super excited. And it's a higher ed social media podcast.
Your birthday, and we all get a present.
Yes, my gift to you guys.
I love it. You're planning ahead and putting some episodes in the can, because so many people are like, here's my new podcast. And then they do one episode and they never do another one. So.
Well, it's also because I'm lazy and and I'm
lazy.
I'm so good at being lazy, and I'm just just get it done. And I have so many other things just going on that I know if I say, oh, my podcast is here and there's no episodes, I'm never going to get to it. So I'm let me just do it now, get it done. And I'm just really excited to see how it will go.
Deb says, be scared, do it anyway.
You're right, Deb. I know. It's me internally. I know. It's just taking that leap, and I need to do that. And
thank you.
I'm working on it.
Thanks, Chip, for being less disruptive than usual.
Probably the better day to do it.
Yeah.
Fauzia, what's your advice for anybody coming up and making their own game and doing this sort of thing?
Yeah, so one thing I would say, Jamila, is you don't have to do what I did, which was just quit and, figure out what I'm doing. A lot of people, I advise them to start it on, do a side hustle. Start on the side, see how it's going. It's less scary than just, okay, I just gave up my, income, and now this company has to provide for my, me and my family. So maybe do it incrementally, do it a little at a time. But my advice to anybody is, you guys know this. I am big on don't take investors. Don't take money from other people, because that really does puts you in a box where you have to kind of deliver on those promises, and it limits your flexibility. So start small. Small is not bad. Small is not bad. You don't have to take over the world. But do it in a way that's authentic to you, and you don't have to pay anybody back, and you don't have to be thinking about what they want, what their vision for the company is. Have your own vision for your own company and your own career. So that would be my advice.
And look up Buy From a Black Woman, Nikki Porcher, amazing network of Black women entrepreneurs.
Yes.
BFABW info on the tweeters.
That's a lot to remember, but just Buy From a Black Woman, Nikki Porcher.
Got it.
I know that's one of those Twitter handles that it's like, it's the same thing. I'm always like, I have to just start entering it and wait for it to populate. Nazim says, great advice, Fauzia. Oh, they want to know the name of your podcast. It's not ready. February 17th.
Well, you can listen to past episodes. It's called The Social Media Engage. It's on Buzzsprout, so you can just go to Buzzsprout. And if you follow me on Twitter, I am Jamila Walker. I'll put the link there so you can listen to past ones. It started off with social media tips to nonprofits, so that's what you'll hear more of. And then I'm gradually going into social media for higher ed.
So fabulous.
Thank you.
I was just thinking about when we talked a little bit earlier, Jamila, about where you were, where you lived right now and all that. And I was thinking about the fact that, being so close to the Barclay Center, it's interesting just to think about the fact that you could stand at the Marcy Projects and look over at the Barclay Center. You could see how far a certain person did his work. So, if you want to take Jay-Z's route, you're in the right neighborhood to get some of that energy into you.
Jay-Z lived down the street. I'm in Virginia Beach now, but when I used to live in Brooklyn.
But when you were there.
Yeah, he lived down the street, and this is back with Marcy Projects. They had
drop it.
And we would go there every summer. It just made me think like, oh, I used to love me some Marcy pool in the summer.
You swim with Sean Carter's jeans or something. Who knows?
Exactly.
Back in the day when you were Jamila Simmons. Okay.
Yes.
Just a thought, because there's a little video clip of him standing on the rooftop of the Barclay Center, pointing over at the project, saying, I used to live right there. So that could be you. You'll be next.
That could be.
All right. We have jobs here, so I got to do some jobs. Ready? Hang on.
Oh, and here's our person of the day. Kaboom!
Who I thought might be a good person of the day today? I think our Italian friend. So Naz was so impressed that you did the Tom Clancy website and all the other things, and he's been a great commentator. And again, he's over in Milan. It's just
apparently was brought up in Brooklyn Heights.
Oh,
hey, Clinton Hills over here. If anyone knows where that is, downtown Brooklyn. That's all I say.
Whenever you say downtown Brooklyn, it's the right way because it's so diffuse. Brooklyn's like a massive place.
It is. They're like, where? I'm like, Fulton Street, downtown. Oh, okay. Yes.
Meanwhile, I grew up in Chatham, Massachusetts. It's like me and 35 other people in my class.
Two streets and a light. Fauzia was across the way in Jersey, so she's nearby. Old home days. All right, we're at the time in the show where we talk about the backpack question. That question is, what goes in your backpack? It's something physical, something metaphorical. It could be something like, I don't know, Carrie, give me a good metaphorical one.
I like fearlessness. That's always going to be my favorite. Fearlessness and vulnerability.
I'm always waiting for one to knock it out of your top 3 or something like that.
No, it's not going to happen. I love that one.
Could be something physical. 5-time championship beat boxer Butterscotch. She wanted a banana because of the helps her lips to
what
make.
What about an extra set of teeth, DJ Cumberbund?
DJ Cumberbund, an extra set of teeth. My all-time favorite, Saida Trujillo, the clown, and avocado. All right, we have to ask that question. Fauzia Burke, what goes in your backpack?
So, I mean, you can't beat an avocado. Come on. That's pretty awesome. But I think what I need in my backpack, and I think we all need in our backpack, is truth. Because there's been a lack of truth in this country that has not worked out very well for any of us. So I think that's what really we need. And for myself, I feel like being honest with my clients, with my staff, with myself, has been one of the best things I've done in my life. So I'm going to put truth in my backpack.
So sometimes you're like, you know what? This book sucks. This is a hard no.
Sometimes I do have to say that. And sometimes I have to say, it's not about me liking it. It's about me being able to do a good job for you. And this book's going to be hard.
So when you say that to me someday, I'll be like, my book sucks.
That's the euphemism for, it's not promotable.
Not promotable.
No, sometimes I just, the client's goals are different than my ability to deliver those goals. And so I just need to make sure that I am honest with them about it. So, truth.
Jamila Walker, that's true. So what are you going to add to the backpack? It could be something physical, something metaphorical. It's whatever's going to make you think this is going to help us for the next 5 years. Could be a pencil. Could be a pencil.
Well, I was going to say it was going to help me for the next 5 years.
Yeah, that's fine.
And so I was going to put a picture of my daughters because all the stuff that I do for them, and they're just like my best friends. So they just motivate me to just do better and just kind of keep going. So that's what I would put in my backpack, just a pictures of them. And they're so cute. So I wouldn't mind looking at them.
I have 2 boys, and people have thought at times that they were twins, but there's like 2 years between them. I should know. And one of them's like 6'2" now, and the other's like 5'6". I'm like, how though? And it's because all their pictures online are like sitting down side by side.
So they look the same size.
Do they? The same coloring. I mean, I don't know. They don't look the same to me. I'm like, what? All little white boys look alike now? It's not okay. It's not.
Well, I don't think I told Jamila how we end the show.
No.
Boy, are you going to be excited?
Oh, I'm in for a treat.
No.
Is your grandmother a twin?
My grandmother did have 2 siblings, though, when we talk about the kids, and she lived, talk about Fauzia, working and living with her husband and having a business together for 25 years. My Grammy lived right beside her brother, Uncle Roland, and they shared a house that shared a basement. So, like, you could go down Grammy's basement stairs and up Uncle Roland's stairs. So all kinds of shenanigans took place that involved secret escapes with the grandkids.